Hey guys, alright? Welcome everyone. We begin by seeing a guard, whose agony was evident in his eyes, desperate to escape from a claustrophobic room during the night shift. He moved hurriedly through a narrow ventilation duct, as if he were fleeing from something relentlessly pursuing him. Finally, he emerged in another room, and a sinister melody echoed around him, as if it came from another world. Just when he thought he was safe, a terrifying animatronic silently emerged from the shadows and grabbed him from behind. Hours later, the guard woke up in an uncomfortable chair, realizing he was trapped. However, the nightmare was far from over, as a terrifying animatronic mask, with sinister blades hidden behind it, was about to be placed on his face. The prospect of this terrible fate probably meant he wouldn't survive. All of this grim narrative unfolded in a pizzeria that, during the day, also served as a cheerful children's party venue. The establishment was the famous Freddy Fazbear's, known for its animatronic character, a bear that delighted the little ones. However, appearances were deceptive, and the place held dark secrets. Our story, however, leads us to meet Mike Schmidt, a man leading an ordinary life. His day began with the annoying sound of the alarm, followed by a brief morning exercise. He shared his space with his sister, Evie, who often hesitated to leave the comfortable makeshift cabin she had created in the room. Despite their somewhat complicated relationship, Mike deeply valued Evie's presence in his life. His job involved being a mall security guard, a task he shared with his friend Jeremiah, who had a habit of telling endless stories. However, the course of Mike's life changed drastically when he witnessed a disturbing event. While waiting in line to buy ice cream, he spotted a boy being dragged away by a man with a force that indicated malicious intent. Believing the boy was being kidnapped, he acted impulsively, knocking the man into a fountain and giving him many punches. Little did he know that this heroic act would lead to unexpected consequences. Mike's intervention got him into trouble, and he was summoned by the security company's supervisor, Steve Raglan. Although Mike had a troublesome reputation, the supervisor had a change of attitude when he noticed Mike's last name. He offered coffee and an opportunity. However, the job was far from ideal, the pay was low, and the work hours included nights. Mike isn't thrilled, but the job offer would provide him with a source of income, and Steve leaves him a card in case he changes his mind. But there was a problem. He was the sole caretaker of Evie, a situation that complicated his plans. Plus, there was the fact that Evie didn't get along very well with Mike and had imaginary friends. He also suffered from anxiety, which afflicted him after failing to prevent the kidnapping of his younger brother, Granite, years ago in a park in Nebraska. His aunt, concerned about Evie's well-being, threatened to take custody of the girl from Mike, claiming he lacked the financial and psychological stability to care for her. However, Evie's teacher explained that he was the closest thing to a family that the girl had, and losing him would be a devastating blow. Upon arriving home, Mike finally decided to accept Steve Raglan's job offer and agreed to work during the night. The job, which would start that very night, was peculiar, ensuring the security of an abandoned place that, in its heyday in the 1980s, had been a lively pizzeria. The pizzeria belonged to Freddy Fazbear, a beloved animatronic character for children. Steve explained to Mike that the place was never demolished due to the owner's sentimental attachment. Night security was needed to prevent break-ins. The security system was outdated but functional. Cameras monitored both indoor and outdoor areas. However, electricity was somewhat unreliable. As Mike prepared to start the job, a cassette tape with his name on it, containing a welcome message from the pizzeria's hostess, triggered a dark premonition. The introduction tape revealed that the pizzeria combined family fun with animatronics technology that interacted and roamed freely in the area. However, the video recording of the presentation mysteriously failed, leaving Mike uneasy. It was as if the place concealed inexplicable and dark secrets. And that night, as Mike began his shift, he barely knew that a series of terrifying events was about to unfold. He soon falls asleep and again has a dream of the day his brother was taken. always the same way, but this time, he comes across several other boys and tries to talk to them. However, they all run away and he runs after them, but soon trips and falls, also falling and waking up in the security room. He sees that morning has already arrived and Mike returns to his house. The babysitter, Max, eagerly waited for him, expecting to receive the payment they had agreed upon. However, the relief of knowing that his sister was well outweighed any financial concerns he might have. The problem lay in the hands of Mike's aunt, Jen, who was trying to use the babysitter and her brother, Jeff, as pawns in a dirty game. They were pressured to find any evidence that could compromise Mike and, thus, give Jen an advantage in the battle for Evie's custody, his sister. It seemed like the house was in order, with nothing to harm Mike's situation. However, Jeff had a cunning plan in mind. He realized that if they could sabotage Mike's new job, they might convince the judge to grant custody to Jen. So, they plotted to break into the place where Mike worked. On Mike's second night of work, while at home trying to remove the Nebraska poster that adorned his bedroom ceiling, his sister, Evie, expressed a desire to accompany him to work. However, Mike, aware of his responsibilities, decided to leave her in Max's care and headed toward the pizzeria. A persistent rain was falling outside, and one of the animatronics seemed to be in an unusual position. However, as soon as Mike drifted into sleep, he found himself in another disturbing dream. The same mysterious boys from the previous night appeared, but this time Mike tried to convince them to stay. However, as soon as he mentioned his brother, the boys ran away, leaving Mike behind. He chased after them, but when he caught up with one of them, he suffered an injury to his arm. When Mike woke up, he noticed that the security cameras had failed, and a shrill, deafening sound echoed through the speakers. Before turning off the lights, he had an unsettling feeling that Foxy, the animatronic, was watching him. Upon restoring the breaker's operation, Mike was surprised by a policewoman who had rung the doorbell. Her name was Vanessa, and she entered to help Mike deal with the arm injury. While tending to the wound, Vanessa shared a childhood memory when she used to frequent Freddy Fazbear's and was fascinated by the antics of Fred and his friends. Vanessa expressed concern about Mike's state, noting that he seemed distressed. Mike responded briefly, describing his complicated week. Vanessa then revealed that security guards working at Freddy Fazbear's rarely lasted long, hinting at the dangerous nature of the job. She also handed a badge to Mike, designating him as an official security officer for the location. The second night came to an end, and Mike closed the pizzeria as expected. Vanessa assured him that all he needed to do was his job, and everything would be fine. However, in the shadows, Jeff, the babysitter's brother, was conspiring. He planned to break into the location with the aim of causing as much destruction as possible, compromising Mike's employment, and thus the judge's decision regarding Evie's custody. However, a sinister twist awaited those who invaded the pizzeria. When the intruders began to vandalize the place, one of the members, Carlos, found an apparently harmless cupcake that belonged to Tika, one of the animatronics. However, the cupcake came to life and attacked Carlos. Horror spread as Hank witnessed Carlos's terrible fate, being devoured by the unexpected foe. While Jeff monitored the cameras, confused by Hank's situation, something didn't seem right. Hank panicked and locked himself in a room. However, Bonnie, one of the animatronics, found him and mercilessly killed him, preparing to confront Jeff. In turn, Jeff ran to the security room, but the situation grew even darker when the phone stopped working, and the animatronics appeared on the cameras, staring at him with vacant eyes. Tika, the animatronic, tried to ambush Jeff through the ventilation ducts, but he blocked her path. However, upon exiting the ventilation, Jeff found himself in a dark corridor, where Foxy, the feared animatronic, was chasing him, singing its eerie melody. When the music stopped, horrifyingly, Foxy attacked Jeff. Max, the babysitter, realizing that Mike was taking too long, decided to search for him and found a boy. She followed him to a room, where she came face to face with Fred Fazbear himself, the animatronic with a boy inside him. What followed was a horrifying sight, with Max attempting to see inside the animatronic. But in an instant, a hand emerged from Freddy's mouth and pulled him inside, gruesomely splitting him in half. At Mike's house, a policewoman named Vanessa, upon discovering the medications he kept, became concerned about his safety and questioned him about their use. Mike shared the reason for his need for these medications, a deep trauma related to his brother's abduction years ago. Furthermore, a few years ago, Mike's mother passed away, leaving his father in a state of neglect, which forced Mike to take on the responsibility of caring for his sister. However, this responsibility did not allow him to nap during his shift. Vanessa took a drastic step by throwing away Mike's medications, intending to keep him alert at work. However, things took an unexpected turn. That night, Max was not answering calls, and since he couldn't leave his sister alone at home, Mike took Evie with him for the third night at Freddy Fazbear's. Evie was excited at the prospect of visiting the place, but upon arrival, it was clear that the place was a complete mess. She set up camp, improvising a sleeping fort in the security office, while Mike took the opportunity to start the daunting task of cleaning up the mess left in the pizzeria. Later, even without his medications, Mike succumbed to sleep, leaving Evie awake and curious. She gently nudged him and informed him that she intended to step out for a brief moment. With determination, Evie headed to Freddy's stage, where, to his surprise, Bonnie appeared in front of him. Already dreaming again, Mike manages to talk to the boy, seeking his help in locating his missing brother. The boy agreed to help her but made it clear that he expected something in return. It was at that moment that a scream echoed, and a drawing of a yellow rabbit appeared on the floor. The scream belonged to Evie, which jolted Mike awake, and he rushed to the stage. There, he found his sister playing with the animatronics, and she was unharmed. Surprisingly, the screams resulted from playing around, and the animatronics were tickling her. Evie then introduced her brother to the animatronics, leaving Mike bewildered. He initially suspected that it might be some kind of prank, but indeed, the animatronics were there. After the affectionate encounter with the animatronics, Evie bid them farewell, giving a heart to Bonnie and hugging Freddy. It was time to head back home. Mike, confused and dazed, tried to process what he had witnessed. Slowly, he began to understand that his sister's drawings represented the animatronics in the form of ghosts. On a peaceful breakfast morning, Mike asked Evie about her drawing, specifically about the moment when Garrett was taken. To his surprise, Evie revealed that a blonde boy had told her the story, but that boy mentioned only a yellow rabbit. Somewhat perplexed, Mike asked Evie to try to gather more information from the boy. On the fourth night, Vanessa was at the pizzeria, carefully examining the drawings related to the yellow rabbit, along with the presence of the mysterious boys. Upon arrival, Mike shared his recent discovery that the ghosts of other children occupied the robots' bodies, which was undoubtedly a disturbing revelation. Vanessa, however, had been aware of this fact for some time and expressed her desire to forge a relationship with the animatronics. Despite Mike's apprehension about the safety of the situation, Vanessa encouraged building an alliance with the animatronics, who seemed receptive to the idea. Everyone seemed to get along, and thus, a peculiar bond began to form. Later, Mike found Vanessa in the back of the pizzeria and came across a disassembled animatronic that piqued his curiosity. However, Vanessa warned him about the danger and demonstrated the fragility of the situation by breaking a broom handle. Additionally, she advised Mike to stop searching for his brother in his dreams, warning him of the dangers it entailed, although she refused to explain how she knew about the existence of Fred and his friends. She made it clear that she was there to assist him and that she was having fun with the animatronics while participating in a rock performance. After an incident involving Abby and an electric shock from Bonnie's guitar, the night ended without major issues. Vanessa delivered a stern warning to Mike, stating that if he brought his sister to the pizzeria again, she would take drastic measures. In search of answers, Mike decided to call his aunt, who agreed to take care of Evie that afternoon, despite expressing her annoyance with him. With that, Mike found himself faced with the need to resolve the outstanding issues at Freddy Fazbear, including obtaining sleeping pills from the pharmacy before heading to the pizzeria. The fifth and final night was about to begin, and Mike, despite his fatigue, fell asleep. However, his dreams took a completely different turn when he found himself in a scenario where his family was whole, including his brother. This time, his brother's abduction had not occurred, and happiness prevailed. A blonde boy offered Mike the opportunity to relive this dream every night in exchange for his cooperation with the ghosts and animatronics. Although he considered the offer for a brief moment, Mike quickly declined, remembering his responsibility to his sister and giving up the bargain. The moment he rejected the offer, the boys started attacking him, inflicting terrible injuries. When he woke up, he found himself chained to a chair, in a contraption similar to the one that had killed the first guard. Mike put forth his efforts to remove the pins holding him down, managing to escape and discovering that all those who had invaded the place were dead in the same room. Even though wounded, Mike tried to make his way out, but then Foxy appeared, singing his sinister song. After the melody ended, Foxy advanced toward him. The animatronics were not limited to the pizzeria, as the animatronic bear itself headed to Mike's house, watching his aunt while she watched television. In the meantime, Evie emerged and found Fred, the blonde boy, inviting her to leave. However, Jane was lying on the floor, and the boy convinced her that she was just sleeping. It's worth mentioning that they arrived at the pizzeria by taxi, with the driver presuming it was all just a fantasy. Meanwhile, Mike woke up in a police station, where Vanessa came to his aid. She was aware of all the deaths that had occurred inside the pizzeria but chose to keep that information a secret. According to her, explaining the events was a daunting task. However, Mike shared his concerns about his sister being in danger, detailing the bizarre dream he had experienced. Meanwhile, Evie ventured into Freddy, and the bear mysteriously disappeared. Vanessa then decided to clarify the situation regarding the missing children, identifying the perpetrator of the crimes as the Yellow Rabbit, an incredibly cunning and cruel individual. After all, the animatronic bodies not only housed the ghosts but were, in fact, the victims' actual bodies. She showed a photo of him and revealed that his name was William Afton, which coincidentally happened to be Vanessa's father. However, the photo showed him holding a toy airplane, indicating that he had kidnapped Vanessa's brother. What remained a mystery was what had happened to him. Simultaneously, Fred and his friends put on a show for Evie, while Vanessa informed Mike that the only way to defeat them was with electricity. However, she couldn't provide assistance as she was traumatized by her father's influence. Nevertheless, she provided Mike with weapons and the keys to a police vehicle so he could rescue his sister. However, upon arriving at the location, he witnessed the moment when Evie was taken by Tika. He struggled to move stealthily, avoiding detection by the animatronics. When an opportunity arose, he used a taser to bring down Fred and Bonnie. However, in the meantime, Tika was taking Evie to be inserted into another animatronic. Yet, Mike arrived just in time, using the taser to incapacitate Tika. They were about to escape, but the cupcake saw everything and went on the attack, grabbing Mike's leg. He instructed Evie to run, but the blonde boy, who was, in fact, Fox's spirit, saw the girl leaving. Mike managed to, at the last moment, reach the electric rod and disabled the cupcake. While Evie tried to find a hiding spot in the game room to avoid Fox, she ingeniously took refuge in the ball pit. However, Mike followed her, and at that moment, the Yellow Rabbit, that is, William Afton, known as Springtrap, emerged. Unlike the other animatronics, he was immune to electricity. Vanessa saved Evie from Fox, but Mike was brutally assaulted by Springtrap, who considered it a form of retribution for him killing his brother. However, Mike, with his voice, managed to awaken Fred and his friends, convincing them to help him. They were about to kill Mike, but Vanessa appeared, and with the gun aimed at her own father, demanded that he stop. He removed the mask, revealing that Mr. Reen was actually a maniac behind it all. Vanessa didn't hesitate to shoot him, despite being her father. While Mike observed the drawings, he realized that the Yellow Rabbit was responsible for controlling the animatronics. At that moment, William Afton reached his daughter, disarmed her, and grabbed her neck, admonishing her for not fulfilling her duty. However, during a moment when Evie was drawing, he brutally injured her, leaving her lying on the floor. What he didn't know was that the drawings dictated the rules, and that Evie had switched the drawing of the friendly rabbit for another. When Mike restored the power, the drawing transformed William into the enemy of the animatronics. Fred and his friends then surrounded William, and Tika threw the cupcake that nibbled his rabbit costume. The animatronic itself turned against him, and his armor began to close. Aware that he was about to die, he put on the rabbit head, announcing that he would return one day. While Mike escaped, rescuing Abby and Vanessa, Freddy and his friends dragged William to face his deserved fate inside Freddy Fazbear. A few days later, Evie was happy, finally becoming part of a family with her brother. Mike paid a visit to Vanessa, who was still dependent on medical devices, but he was hoping for her recovery. Evie asked her brother if she could visit her friends from time to time, and he agreed that maybe she could. However, behind the scenes of Freddy, William agonized with the door closed. Furthermore, the harmless balloon boy scared the taxi driver, thus concluding the storyline of Five Nights at Freddy, The Endless Nightmare.